I know you're going to think this is kind of an odd place to start this project, but I want to concentrate this video on this one detail because I think it's such a vital aspect of locksmithing and it's used so often that it's really important to have a clear understanding of how it's done. And that is the square corner in sheet metal. Now in locksmithing, this detail isn't purely aesthetic. Of course it looks great. It has a really refined look that just sort of elevates any project. But in addition to that, that square corner allows you to file a very sharp inside corner, which is often necessary when you're trying to get a really good fit for a guide around a door bolt, for example. If you tried to file a sharp inside corner like this on a piece that was simply bent around in the vise, you would cut most of the way through the corner and really weaken the piece. The square corner allows you to maintain the metal thickness right through the whole corner. When I'm working on small pieces like this, I'll usually clamp the Anvil block into the vise. That raises it up to a comfortable position for doing light work, and it also brings it closer to my eyes so I can see what I'm doing. The reason I'm starting to rough out the cover plate first is because it needs to fit in the design of the back plate. And I decided that it was going to be much easier to work the design around the cover plate than try to fit the cover plate inside of the back plate design. In other words, I'm basically free to do whatever I want with this cover plate right now. If it goes a little larger than I had originally anticipated, then it's going to be very easy to just modify the back plate to accommodate that. The back plate is just going to be a simple matter of cutting out and filing the thing to shape, so whether it's a ½ inch longer here or there isn't going to make any difference. But if I had the back plate finished, then the cover plate would have to fit inside of those dimensions, which isn't really a problem. I would just have to have the whole design worked out totally before I proceeded to that point, and I really didn't want to do that with this lock. I'm still designing as I go. Now the design of the actual cover plate is going to get cut inside of that large square, but I'm just roughing away the material that I need to get at the square corner, and I'll do those first. That way if I mess them up, I don't have any time invested in this piece. I can just toss it away and start over. Here I'm making the initial bend for the square corner in the vise. Unlike square corners that are made in larger stock, square corners in sheet metal are done cold. To hammer the square corner, I'm going to clamp one leg in the vise, and then I'm going to use a cross peen that has a very narrow, well-rounded face. And I'm just going to work very systematically across the whole width of the square corner. I'm not trying to move a lot of metal here. I'm just taking my time and just using a lot of light hammer blows. It's really important to keep the shoulder up and away from the vise. It's hard to tell here, but I have about a 1/16 of an inch gap between the large square surface of the cover plate and the leg that I'm hammering on. If I try to work too quickly, I'm just going to drive that leg down into the vise, and then the cover plate will be resting on the top draw and I won't be able to upset any material. At this point, you're not really upsetting any metal, you're just straightening the two faces that meet in the corner. And like any other square corner, you rotate the piece around and you start doing the same thing on the other face. My vise jaws are a little worn and it's hard to clamp a large flat surface like this, so I'm going to back up the bottom corner of the cover plate while I'm hammering this face, and that'll keep it from rotating around because basically the vise is really just clamped in one area right now, not across the entire face, so it rotates around very easily if I don't have it backed up. So of course I repeat this process on both sides of the cover plate. I hammer once on each face, and then once I've hammered it once, I'll throw it back in the fire to anneal it. Annealing is really important when you're working sheet metal cold. The stresses build up so quickly, and annealing releases those stresses and makes the metal soft again, so it can be shaped without any danger of developing stress fractures. To anneal a piece, I just throw it in the fire and bring it up to a dull red heat, and then let it cool slowly in the air. Once it's at a black heat, you can continue working again. It's really important not to quench the steel, because there is enough carbon in mild steel to make it slightly brittle. You just need to let it cool down to a black heat, and then you can continue working again. I found if you start working when it still has a redness to it, then you quite often deform the piece and ruin the corner, because you're trying to really make such subtle changes to the piece. Having it that extra soft makes it really easy to mess up the corner. It doesn't have to be room temperature, it just has to be below a red heat. Just handle it with tongs when you're putting it back in the vise. It's really hard to describe how much softer it is after you've annealed the piece. It's almost like hammering lead. Because the metal is so much softer here, I'm using very light hammer blows, and I don't need to back the piece up with the extra hammer to keep it from rotating in the vise. If you hammered very carefully and you haven't created any folds in the metal, at the end of this heat you should have a nice square corner that's ready to be filed to shape. And of course, as the corner squares up, it becomes a lot easier to hammer right in the corner, which is where you need to work to get the corner shaped properly. Here I'm just using a small bickern to make sure that both the arms are straight right from the inside corner to the outside edges. Hi, I'm Dennis, and thanks for watching. If you liked this video, by all means give it a thumbs up. If you want to support this channel, you have a couple of options to do that. The first, of course, is to just subscribe. Secondly, if you have any suggestions or photographs of things you'd like to see on this channel, send them along and I'll do my best to turn them into a video. If you want to lend your financial support, you can do that in a couple of ways. First, if you're interested in making an ongoing contribution to this channel, just click the Patreon icon and it'll take you to my Patreon page, and you can donate whatever amount you feel comfortable with. If you want to make a one-time contribution, just go to my channel homepage and click the donate button in the banner. So thank you for your support, and with your help I'll be doing this for some time to come. I'll see you next time.